Alright, so let's talk a little bit about dimensions. So, if you have a point, I drew one on here. You have a point. Okay, so that point is going to have no sides, no height, and no width. It's just something that indicates its location in some certain point. Now, if I'm to draw another point and a line, this other point, this right here is the first dimension. It's anything linear that can travel any linear motion. Pretty simple. It's very easy for us to understand. Now, if you pop to the second dimension, what the second dimension is you have length. Now you're adding width to that. So it's going to be something linear with something else linear on top of it, stacked infinitely, to where now it has another range of motion it can travel. So if you are to add something to that, it's a square, really. Anything that can move up, down, sideways, it's not going to be able to travel with any depth. So I like to think of Mario Brothers for this one. Something that applies to my generation. Played all the time, loved it as a kid. Anytime I like to think of second dimension, I love to think Mario Brothers. So Mario Brothers, let's talk about how he sees and how he envisions things. With Mario Brothers is he's on like a page, a screen, and he is allowed to travel sideways. What he would see though is he'd be seeing this. He would be able to see maybe a brick here. He has to jump through. In real life, Mario wouldn't know when maybe he's passing certain things. He's not going to be able to see on either side of him, with dealing with any depth. So he's dealing just in that contained area. It's called the flatlander. So something that's just kind of flat, deals with that motion. Now let's go to us. We live in a third dimension. Daily life's in it. I can travel, jump up and down, run sideways, and I have depth. Now, Mario sees in a first dimension. We see more in a second dimension. So, what do I mean by that? We're 3D. I can see everything that's in my dimension, why 2D? So, let's think about that. When I see something across the room, I see it as a concealed object, something that looks like it could be 2D. So, for example, if I have something, let's say a balloon. Let's say a balloon, and I can see that it's solid. It looks round to me. I can't see any depth in that. From where I'm standing, all I see is a circle. So, if it were to traveling in motion, the thing that changes that helps me see is maybe shadows, and it's how big it is. So if I have one balloon, same size, I tie a knot at the end, I pull it closer to me, it's going to get bigger. I put it further away, and it's going to get smaller. And as it gets smaller, that helps me know its location. So let's say, for instance, my friend is over there, I'm over here. They end up, it's a huge balloon. They end up cutting off the tail end of it, and as it gets to me, air is going to come out. So let's just say we're in a perfect controlled setting, and this balloon ends up letting air out. So as it gets to me, it's going to get smaller. My vision, how I'm going to see that, is I'm just going to see this. If it stays the same consistent size, there's just going to be something round. It's just going to look like it's coming towards me. I'm not going to be aware it's coming towards me if it stays the same size as the distance I see away. So if it looks like it's about this big as it's traveling, it's going to stay that size because the air is coming out. It's getting smaller. When if it was the same size, it would be getting bigger. So if it stays at a consistent rate, then once it gets to me, I may not know it's even moving. Things that can help me tell that it's moving is maybe its shadow, the light on it, other settings, but if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't know. kind of the same thing with Mario. Now, what would happen if I were to go into Mario's dimension? Let's think about that. If I had let's say this is the screen, and I end up sticking my hand in the screen. It's just going to end up looking like some kind of a dot or something on the screen. And as I stick my hand through, it'll look like maybe more kind of a square area for my fist to fit in. It just kind of looks like a blob kind of entering his realm. It'd be very confusing for Mario to see that. So since we have depth added, we're not going to be a square. We're going to end up being a cube in 3-dimension. So fourth dimension is going to be a tesseract, which is hard to explain. It's going to be our cube that is going to be like a cube inside of itself to where you can move and kind of jump throughout. So the extra perk they're going to have, it's something that you can't picture in your mind. Like, it's impossible for you to envision this in your mind, just like it would be impossible for you to try to explain to Mario that we have depth. An easier way of putting this is they can see through each kind of layer, just like each pixel. Let's say there's a line of pixels on the screen. That's going to be your linear. That's going to be first. If you add pixels up and down, that's going to be second. Pixels sideways, that's going to be third dimension. Now for the fourth, is he's going to be able to kind of shuffle through all of these pixels that are getting closer and further away. So he would be able to see me here if you cut off, here if you cut off. He'd be able to see through my entire body. And keep in mind that if things in the second dimension, organisms, they couldn't have anything that we have. If they had blood, then it would be like, let's say you gave Mario a digestive tract. What it would look like a little bit of a drawing down, and what that would end up doing is just kind of separating him into two parts. It's just, you can't have that. So in the fourth, relating to what we would see in the third, I would end up seeing maybe a cube, and it would kind of shape shift and look weird to me as he's kind of shuffling through, and he could be able to see through. There's also another additional theory that for the fourth, they can kind of travel, they kind of jump in time, but that's a little different. And keep in mind that all of these things have mathematics behind it. Solid to the ground. So each of these dimensions have math behind it, and that's kind of where we pull, and some of these can derive from, you can kind of build on top of that. So the first dimension, you build onto that, you have second, they kind of work until you kind of can have an infinite amount. But mathematically, as soon as you get to 11 and on, it kind of collapses back down on itself and just kind of stays at 11. 11 is the support for there to be a 10. It will build on itself. Now, in all of the dimensions, they can have any dimension lower than it. So in 11, it can have membranes, really, of the other dimensions rolling and realming in that. So, they're membranes, and based off of which dimension it is, they have P for it, so it's actually called P-branes that are rolling in each dimension. And the P-branes end up sending off kind of vibrations as you kind of get into string theory. I don't know, it gets a lot more in-depth. This kind of goes hand in hand with all of the other theories, like M theory, God theory, like string theory that each realm and dimension is set like on something that they can't touch each other. It's like a radio frequency. So if I have this on, let's say, radio channel 91.1, that would be me right here where I'm standing now. If I turn the dial to 91.2, it could have a whole different realm of elements. It could be a different dimension that's kind of hovering over ours. It could be also maybe something playing in a third dimension just with one element changed. It rolls into infinite amounts of, mathematically there's an infinite number of universes, and each thing can kind of break off from itself. But that's a whole other topic. This is trying to help you understand how dimensions work. Maybe later I'll make another video on time travel and multiverse, and talk about each dimension, verse itself. So this is my video. Thanks for watching.